didn't have my computer's volume on.
Oh, can you hear me?
I can. I'm just a dipshit. Hey, welcome to Supposedly, the show where we talk about weird stuff.
I'm sick and I don't feel well.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. So, Rue, you sent me a picture and you looked just like you had a rough night. What happened?
You know, I felt jealous because you got a whole head and I wanted to feel special too. I was in a commercial today.
Yay! Rue's first German commercial.
No, it's still American. It was for the...
Oh.
Yeah, it was for our post. No, so our gyms are finally allowed to open on base.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting. But we're making a video because there's all sorts of rules and regulations now for how to stay safe in the gym environment during COVID. And so it's like, you know, you have to do social distancing. Everyone, you know, one person can enter at a time. You have to wash your hands coming in and out and all that jazz. And so we made like, it's kind of a cheesy, it almost looks like one of the, you know, your job at Wendy's kind of instructional videos, which is the point.
I love those.
It's a lot of fun. And so one of them, you know, we've got this guy narrating. He's like the head of the gyms. And he's narrating and he's like, if you appear sick, you will be turned away. And so I had to be the sick person trying to work out. So I looked tragically bad. I looked even worse than the picture I sent you. That was like the test run.
I just want to know who goes to work out when they're sick. I can't do anything when I'm sick. I'm barely doing this podcast right now and I feel like crap. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's just the military mindset. I've watched Darnell like go to his morning exercise with like a stuffy head and feeling like crap. So
yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, no, not a fan. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to look really terrible. And
Your
then
makeup
I was like,
looked fantastic.
Thank you. I did it myself. Yeah.
Hey, major props.
Yeah. No, it was funny though, because like later we were going to get some more like B-roll, and I was like in the car with a baby wipe because every time that you go through a gate to get somewhere else on post, you have to show your ID and like they have the questionnaire of like, do you have any of these symptoms? And I was like, I look like a zombie. Like I am typhoid Rue right now. And so I'm like scrubbing my face with a baby wipe before we get to the next gate. And they're like, they look in the car and look at me and I'm like kind of red from scrubbing, but I'm like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, I know, I'm fine, I swear. Yeah. I swear.
Yeah, what's this spot on my arm? I don't know.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love watching people's reactions when you have any sort of makeup on and forget and just kind of go out in public or are forced to go out in public, moving from one location to the next.
Yeah.
I played a car crash victim once, and I was out in public with the makeup on, moving from location to location, and people thought I was seriously injured. I had to have a black eye for a domestic scene once, and I had a long break, so I thought, hey, this is the perfect time for me to run and just get some Taco Bell real quick. It was the middle of the night, totally forgot I was wearing it, gonna run, get some Taco Bell, go back to set, finish my thing. Well, I go through Taco Bell, and they just look horrified, but give me my meal, and it wasn't until I got home that I realized, oh, they think somebody punched me in the face.
Yep.
Oh, well, just part of the life.
How many bean burritos do you need? And what address should we deliver these bean burritos to?
Yeah, they looked concerned, but nobody said anything, and I'm just like, why are they looking at me like that? And then, it dawned on me, crap, yeah, I do have a really bad black eye look right now, even though I was fine, clearly.
Yeah. I used to work in a haunted house, actually several, but, I mean, with that comes the territory of, like, you're driving home at, like, 4 a.m.
Right, of course.
And I think I was 16, maybe 17, and I'm driving home at 4 a.m. My first car was a 1988 Crown Vic, so like the big Beverly Hills cop car style.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm driving home, and I come through like a sobriety checkpoint.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, no biggie. but that night I didn't really wipe my face at all. I was just like, I just want to get home, hop in the shower, I'll scrub it.
Right, you don't think about it. All you think is I'm going to go to the shower, get in the shower, and then it's just your commute home as normal.
Yeah, and my character wasn't particularly bloody. I was like one of the distractions.
Uh-huh.
But I had what would probably be considered stripper makeup, if you will.
Okay.
I had, and we love sex workers, but I'm talking the bad stereotype from the 80s. I had like blue eyeshadow up to my eyebrows, and like it was not a good look. And so I get, pull through, have the police officer shining the light right in my eyes. Where are you going? I was like, home. He's like, where are you coming from? Work. And he goes, oh, where do you work? And I was like, at the haunted house. And he's like, mm-hmm. Like he was not buying it. And I'm sure he thought that I was coming home from a shift at a different type of establishment. Little does he know, I don't have the coordination for that line of work, and I have mad respect for the people who do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, that's always been a fear of mine, that I get pulled over after a particularly bloody horror film or something. Or I get pulled over after I've picked up the head that I purchased or anything like that. Which I still haven't purchased it. I have plans to. I want to. But haven't done it yet. I just am afraid I'm going to get pulled over with my own head in the trunk, and they're going to see it, and that's going to be a mess. But maybe
that's an example of our white privilege.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's a fake head, I swear! It's mine! See? Me!
Also, we're going to segue and say, defund the police, #Black Lives Matter. Go donate to a fund, because they still need it.
Absolutely.
And arrest the people who killed Breonna Taylor. Anyways. Yep. Now that we got our housekeeping,
let's should we get into some spooky stuff today?
I think we probably should. Who goes first?
Well, we did guess last week, so either one of us could go first.
Okay, my notes are going to be chaotic because I forgot to charge my tablet, so I'm going to have to like split screen to my notes on my computer. So
okay, whatever you want to do. I could go first.
Go for it. Mine's a little short. Mine's kind of weird. So
I am going to talk to you today about I feel bad saying one of my favorite true crimes, but for some reason I just identify with the victim in this so much that it's always stood out to me.
So like one of your most fascinated ones, or like one that you find the most compelling?
I just relate to this poor victim for some reason. On some level, this is always called to me. I'm a huge fan of Unsolved Mysteries, and this was a segment that was featured in Unsolved Mysteries back in the 80s or early 90s. And I just really wanted to tell her story. So
yes.
Today I'm going to talk to you about Grace May Brown. Grace May Brown grew up in South Aesthetic, New York. Now, I could be pronouncing that wrong. Remember, I'm very sick and there's a lot of cold medicine coursing through my system at the moment. She was the middle child and daughter of a successful dairy farmer and his wife. When she was young, she was reportedly given the nickname Billy because her love for the contemporary hit song at the time, Won't You Come Home, Billy Bailey. Grace attended grammar school in the village and became close friends with her teacher at the time, Maud Kinnan Crum, and her husband. Now, Brown later often signed love letters as the Kid after the Western outlaw Billy the Kid, and many believe that this was ties to her song, Won't You Come Home, Billy Bailey. In 1904, at the age of 18, Grace May Brown moved to nearby Cortland to live with her married sister Ada and to work at the new Gillette skirt factory. It was there in 1905 that she met the factory owner's nephew, Chester Gillette. Chester was described by many as being charming, popular, athletic, and handsome, and he was seen to be quite the catch at the time due to his family's immense wealth and established history. Grace and Chester began a secret love affair. Now, he never took Grace in public or acknowledged her romance, and he was often seen with other women from wealthy established families.
Oh.
Yeah. Chester even convinced Grace to see him without a chaperone, which in those days put her reputation at immense risk. Of course, due to this behavior, Grace's friends didn't quite care for Chester at all, and they often tried to convince her what a cad he was, and that she didn't know his true nature. But Grace's heart wanted... Right?
Listen to
What
your
difference?
friends.
But Grace's heart wanted Chester, and it wasn't long before she fell pregnant in early spring of 1906. Grace returned to her parents' home while keeping her pregnancy a secret. She begged Gillette to marry her multiple times, and after repeated attempts, he relented, and he planned to take her away to the Adirondacks. Grace packed her entire wardrobe for the trip,
Oh
while
my.
Gillette packed just a small suitcase, monogrammed with his initials CEG. Some 21st century writers suggest that Gillette may have, instead of offering to marry her, promised to take Brown to a maternity home in upstate New York, where she could live until she delivered the child, though it's often accepted that he promised to marry her, and this was an elopement. Chester and Grace stayed for a night in Utica, New York, where they continued their trip by train to Tupper Lake in Franklin County. They spent another night, and due to the rain the next day, which ruined their plans for an outing on a nearby lake, they opted to return by South Train to Big Moose Lake in Herkimer County. Now, I'm probably also pronouncing this incorrect, but it's in New York. Chester entered the name Carl Graham in the hotel register, choosing a name based on his monogrammed initials. On July 11th, the couple rented a rowboat from a man named Robert Morrison, and were then seen rowing out on Big Moose Lake near Covewood Lodge. Morrison expected them to return with the boat near dinner time, and when they hadn't returned, he found it very suspicious. Now, I don't know if he found it suspicious that maybe something had happened, or maybe that his rowboat just wasn't returned. But fearing the worst, Robert Morrison organized a search party the next morning, and it wasn't long before they came across the capsized rowboat. A short distance away, they found Grace's body floating in the water.
No.
2 days later, police located Chester Gillette in a nearby hotel. When questioned, he denied ever knowing Grace Brown. He gave multiple explanations as to what happened that day, including that Grace had drowned herself in despair because he didn't love her anymore. The police confiscated love letters from Grace to Chester found in his hotel room as evidence. District Attorney George Ward read the letters out loud to the court during a trial that fell in 1906, and the letters gained the trial national attention. In many, Grace pleaded with Gillette to accept responsibility for her pregnancy, and in her final letter, written July 5th, Brown looked forward to her trip with Gillette. She said farewell to her childhood home, wishing she could confess her pregnancy to her mother. I'm going to quote now directly from Grace's letter that was read at trial. I know I shall never see any of them again. And Mama, great heavens, how I do love Mama. I don't know what I shall do without her. Sometimes I think if I could tell Mama, but I can't. She has enough trouble as it is, and I couldn't break her heart like that. If I came back dead, perhaps she does not know. She won't be angry with me. Copies of the love letter were published in a booklet form and sold outside the courtroom during the trial. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The defense of the trial claimed that Grace had been confused and suddenly jumped out of the boat and into the water, despite being fully clothed. Gillette testified, and I quote, "We talked a little more, and then she got up and jumped in the water. She just jumped in."
What?
As the trial went on, it was speculated and later accepted that Gillette had struck Grace over the head with a tennis racket, rendering her unconscious prior to her drowning.
Jesus, you gotta hit someone hard with a tennis racket to knock them unconscious.
Right? And then, it's speculated. They don't know if he knocked her unconscious, causing her to fall over, or he knocked her unconscious and threw her into the water.
Yeah. Well, and
He was
okay,
very vague about it.
so you said that she went back to stay with her parents, but she never told
Yes.
them that she was pregnant. She just was like, I'm gonna go home.
No, she returned
Okay.
home and she kept the pregnancy a secret while she was at home with her parents, all the while begging Chester to marry her. Then they
Gotcha.
arranged this trip. It's believed that the trip was to be an elopement.
Right, right.
But some people argued that maybe she was going to be dropped off at this unwed mother's home. It's not really quite certain why they were going on this trip.
Gotcha.
But the fact that Grace packed all of her clothes is very highly suspicious. And
Yeah.
Chester barely packed anything.
Right. She knew she was gonna be gone for a while.
Right. And when you hear her last letter where she talks about never seeing her parents again,
Yeah.
to me, it reads like perhaps she had a suspicion of what was going to happen, or maybe that they were going to say that she had passed and she was just going to disappear from her parents' life to go on to marry Chester and live this great life, or she was just going to kind of fade into the blackness in this unwed mother's home.
Yeah.
But either way, she didn't want to bring shame onto her family by revealing that she had become pregnant out of wedlock, which is very sad.
It is. That's awful.
Chester Gillette was found guilty for premeditated murder of Grace Brown and was sentenced to death. The New York Court of Appeals affirmed the conviction, and Governor Charles Evans Hughes refused to grant clemency. Gillette was executed on March 30th, 1908, in Auburn Correctional Facility by electric chair. It was reported by the Los Angeles Herald that he went to his death without a sign of weakness and with the same lack of emotion he exhibited since his arrest.
Whoa.
In a state, I know. In a statement released after his death, he implored men to live Christian lives. Now, it should be noted that Gillette never publicly or privately admitted to the drowning of Grace Brown.
Hmm.
Sadly, her and Gillette's deaths aren't the end of this story. The true crime went on to inspire many fictional treatments, such as Theodore Drescher's 1929 novel, An American Tragedy, and Jennifer Donnelly's 2003 novel, A Northern Light. The murder was analyzed and explored in 2 nonfiction books, both published in 1986. Adirondack Tragedy, The Gillette Murder Case of 1906, written by Joseph W. Bronwell, and Patricia A. Warzarek. A Murder in the Adirondacks, A Tragedy Revisited by Craig Brandon. Decades later, Hollywood turned this tortured love story into a hit film, A Place in the Sun, starring Shelley Winters, a 17-year-old Elizabeth Taylor, and Montgomery Clift,
Huh.
in which Grace Brown is portrayed as an unattractive nag, which just breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Tobias Picker composed the music for an opera adaptation of An American Tragedy in 2005 with a libretto by Jean Schreier, commissioned by the Metropolitan Opera. The work later went on to premiere at Lincoln Center in New York City.
Dang. That's cool.
As if her portrayal as an unattractive nag wasn't enough, for generations, Grace's spirit has been said to haunt Big Moose Lake near the Clovewood Lodge. The following encounters I'm going to relay to you from my all-time favorite series, Unsolved Mysteries.
Hey-o.
A lot of this is going to be directly quoted because I find these stories so fascinating that I don't want to summarize it in my own words. I want you to hear directly from the witnesses what they encountered. So this comes from Unsolved Mysteries. One summer night in 1988, several employees of the Clovewood Lodge on Big Moose Lake, including Rhonda Busalat, were approaching the staff lodge. Rhonda led the pack, unaware that someone or something might be waiting inside. She's quoted as saying, "I walked into the staff lodge straight up the stairs with my hand out, reaching for a string, which is how to turn on the light. As I approached the top of the stairs, and just before I was ready to turn on the light, a feeling came over me that somebody was right there. More or less, I stopped in my tracks and really just didn't move. I didn't have an overwhelming feeling of fright, but something definitely, or someone was there. It just kind of took my breath away. But the real show was going on outside." According to Rhonda, her friends were witnessing a spine-tingling vision at the exact same moment. She is quoted as saying, "All 3 of them had the exact story. It lingered for just a few seconds and then moved away. All 3 of them saw the ghost. I didn't see anything myself, but I felt that somebody was right there, and it was just a strange feeling." Linda Lee Mackman had her own encounter with Grace Brown a few months after. "I was walking down towards the lake with my flashlight, and the light was getting dimmer and dimmer. By the time I got to the edge of the lake and the rocks, my flashlight wasn't working, so I had to turn around and go back. I was awestruck, and not only was I certain that I was looking at a ghost, but I had a very strong feeling of sadness. She was very sad." Heartbroken and alone, Grace's spirit continues to be seen in full-body apparition at Big Moose Lake, often seen hovering over the lake water or on the balcony of the lodge. She's frequently reported as giving off an aura of sadness and hopelessness. She's seen in full-body apparition wearing a long dress with her hair worn back, tied up in a bun.
Mm-hmm.
It's my personal hope that Grace finds peace in her afterlife, as the memory of her torrid love affair lives on, reminding us all that those closest to us aren't often as they seem.
Wow. So, well, first off, you were telling the ghost story, and either my husband just got home or they're blowing stuff up on base, but all of my windows started to rattle as you were telling that.
Oh.
So that was what you probably saw. I muted myself and I took my headset off for a second. And I was like, hold on, like, am I gonna be possessed in a minute? Like,
And then there's a baby crying in the background, which is terribly
Right.
sad considering she was
Yeah.
expecting at the time of her death.
So is it just a coincidence, or does this Gillette have something to do with like the best a man can get Gillette?
That family actually does, I believe, own the Gillette razor.
Oh,
Family.
wow.
I should go on to say that Chester Gillette's uncle, who owned the Gillette skirt factory at the time where Grace May Brown worked, refused to pay for his nephew's defense in the case,
Good.
which I thought was pretty honorable.
Yeah, screw that guy.
Yeah.
Dang. Well, that's pretty sad that she's remembered as such a nag.
Yeah, according to her love letters, she was just very trusting, innocent girl that got mixed up with this guy who...
Well, and she was pretty young too, wasn't she? How old was she?
18.
Yeah. I mean, God, I think about myself at 18.
Oh, 19. 19.
Oh,
my bad.
Either way, at 19, I was still so naive, and you want that fairy tale.
Yeah,
And
she met him at 19, and by the age of 20, she was found to be pregnant, and that's when she passed.
That's so sad. Well, thank you for telling her story and helping
Yeah.
her be remembered in a better light.
I hate that she went on to be portrayed that way.
Yeah.
And for some reason, this story has always really resided in me. I don't know if it's the actress's portrayal of her in Unsolved Mysteries, but it was
Mhm.
just seeing her apparition portrayed was just haunting to me. And to think that she thought she was getting ready to start a new life and she was giving up everything, her family and her friends, for this
Yeah.
man who she loved and she'd finally convinced to marry her, and instead she got the ultimate betrayal. It's
Yeah.
devastating.
Well, and I think, like, I mean, at least for me, I won't speak for you or for everybody, but like in my experience as a woman, you feel kind of that almost maternal need to protect these young, sweet, innocent little girls that believe, oh, he's going to marry me and it's all going to be okay. And it's like, hold on, back it up. If all your friends hate him,
There's probably a
there's
reason.
probably, yeah, like consider why everyone who
Yeah,
you trust says, maybe take a step back. And
definitely. Listen to your friends. Listen to the people
yeah.
who have been there much longer than the other people
Mhm.
or person
Absolutely.
involved, for sure. And more than that, follow your own instinct.
Yeah, and if you have to beg a guy to do right by you, just leave.
Just leave. Get out of
Yep.
there.
Yep.
But I really hope Grace finds peace, because
Yeah.
it sounds like she's got an eternity of sadness and hopelessness and devastation
Mhm.
about her, and I just hate that for her. She deserves so much better
Yeah.
in life and in death.
Poor Grace.
I tried to find what Gillette's last meal was, but I was unable to lock that down.
Oh, I do love that. What would your last meal be?
Steak.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
choice.
I'd steak, bunch of chocolate,
Okay.
probably some chicken Alfredo,
Yeah.
maybe some Chipotle on the side.
Oh my
Chipotle is
God.
my love language.
Please don't say Chipotle around me.
Oh, can you not get that in Germany?
No.
Oh, my heart
I think
breaks
there
for you.
might be one in Frankfurt, but that's like a 3-hour drive and I haven't been there yet. But swear to God, I go there, I'm just gonna eat Chipotle.
Oh, when I lived in Georgia, the small town I lived in for a
Mhm.
while, the nearest Chipotle I think was about 3 hours away in Atlanta. And I couldn't do it. I said that was one of my main reasons for moving away from there, is like I couldn't get Chipotle. And
Yeah.
like that's so intricate. I
Mhm.
got my free guac mode activated right now. So, I mean, I don't want to because I'm trying to save money, but I might just order that for lunch to cheer
Yeah.
myself up from not feeling well and then being sad about Grace May Brown again.
Well,
I
and
think
like,
about this girl a lot, and I have since I was little and saw that episode.
oh,
I
that's so
know.
sweet.
It's really just registered with me, and I feel so bad for her.
Well, you
I
should
also
get
think
some.
it's really relatable,
It
in the
is.
sense that we've all dated that person our friends have warned us
Yeah.
against of, he's a jerk, he's a
Well,
fuck boy,
and
he's a whatever.
I think we've all believed and been
Hoped.
engineered to believe that we can change them or they will grow for us.
Yeah.
And a lot
That's
of
not the
times they
case
won't, and it's not our job to grow them.
to fix anybody.
No, no, absolutely not. And if you're in that situation, we love you and we support you, and we hope that you are able to take the steps necessary to get yourself into a different situation.
And definitely don't go out on a rowboat with
Yeah,
anybody
just in
that you're
general.
unsure of. I mean, you gotta take into account at the time, a lot of the outfits those women would wear were very thick and very heavy.
Yeah.
So if you were submerged in the water, even if you did know how to swim, a lot of
Hmm.
times the weight of the outfit could drag you down too. A lot of the skirts were
Oh, yeah.
multiple leveled, made of thick wool. It wasn't easy to swim in.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I know it's kind of corny, and of course it's, a facsimile of the truth, but I always go back to like the Titanic when the boat starts to sink and Rose has to go down to where Jack is handcuffed, and she just starts ripping off the outer layers of that huge, gorgeous dress she's wearing because it's so freaking heavy as the bottoms of the boat starts to fill with water. And it's like, I mean, those dresses are tens of pounds.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
Grace
hefty.
came from a definitely a less wealthier family. So
Well, yeah.
I'll send you a picture of her. She's often seen in some of the photographs that exist of her as
Hmm.
wearing kind of a chiffon white turtleneck blouse,
Yeah.
and a button up, and
Hmm.
then big, thick, heavy skirts.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I have had to like wade in jeans before, and that was miserable. I can't imagine any sort of big, heavy, like Victorian era dress. That just sounds like not a good time.
So what did you bring for me today? I
All
can't wait to
right.
hear it.
So tonight I kind of have a twofer.
Cool.
Because the first story that I originally did notes for, it was just kind of short. But actually this name, I kind of struggled to get good notes because this name is actually attached to a much bigger story. And
Ooh.
so I just kind of decided that I'm going to start you off with an appetizer and then get into a more substantial story.
Welcome to Mysteries and Mayhem.
It's kind of weird, like there are some similarities almost between our stories, just because my second one gets a little true crimey, a lot true crimey.
Okay.
So usually we coordinate.
Is
but
it in the same year again?
No, it's like
Okay.
hundreds of years before yours. That was weird
All right.
when we've done that a couple times.
Yeah, we don't talk about what we're gonna do. So
Yeah.
for our listeners out there, Rue and I really don't talk about the podcast prior to recording it.
Mhm.
We do say what topic we're likely going to cover, so the other person does something different, and so that we're constantly bringing you some different topics and shaking things up a bit.
Yeah.
So we had not discussed, but we've been often getting the same year or off
Yeah.
by like 1 year in the same time era, and we're like, what?
Yeah. No, it's and this week we didn't even communicate at all, really, because between you being sick and me being super busy with the theater and stuff.
Yeah, it's been crazy.
Okay, so today I'm gonna tell you first about Okiku, the hair-growing doll.
I am so in.
I figured, so I wanted to do a creepy doll story to try and dissuade you from your obsession with Anita, because
I haven't checked on her for a bit.
I'm concerned, and as your friend who loves you, want to maybe remind you that we don't buy scary dolls.
But we're not going to judge anybody who does.
No, but we personally maybe shouldn't.
Okay.
Okay. So I wanted to tell you the story to try and maybe remind you of some of the weird things that can happen with dolls.
Yeah.
So there are a few different versions of this legend, and I'm going to put a big, supposedly Superman-esque doodle stamp over this story.
Our trademark supposedly doodle stamp.
Exactly. Just because it's got, I don't want to say that it's not real, but it's got some makings for being a little inflated. Okay.
If it makes you feel any better, I cannot find Anita on eBay right now. Usually she just pops up waiting for me, so maybe she's been sold.
Usually she texts
Maybe
you.
one of our non-existent listeners have picked her up.
Okay, hold on. When did your story take place?
Yeah, well, it ranges. She met him in 1905. Oh, no, at 1904, she starts working at the factory. She meets him in 1905. She's pregnant in 1906, and that's about when the death takes place, and then the trial happens after that.
Because my first story does start in 1918.
That's pretty close.
It's pretty close. Okay.
That is pretty close.
So, in 1918, Aikuchi Suzuki, and we're going to hope that I said that properly.
That sounds pretty good.
Yep. So Akuchi Suzuki is a 17-year-old student from Hokkaido, and he was visiting Sapporo for a marine exhibit. He decided to take a stroll through Tanuki Koji. God, I'm sorry, everyone that's of Japanese descent and or smarter than me. So Tanuki Koji is Sapporo's famous shopping district. And so here he found this sweet doll, and he immediately knew that he needed to take her home to his 2-year-old little sister, Okiku.
Okiku, I love that name.
Yeah. So this doll was 16 inches tall, and she had a bobbed okappa haircut. So that's kind of the very straight, blunt bangs, and then the little bob that like you see that we all had in the 90s.
You are describing right now a doll I very much owned as a child. It was a Japanese doll that someone brought me back from Japan, and she had the same haircut. I want to hear more about the doll and see if it matches.
Well, so to be fair, the okappa haircut is very popular in Japan, and especially was super popular at that time. So this doll, in addition to that haircut, she had kind of these black, they looked a little beady eyes. And she was dressed in like a classic kimono.
Okay, what color was the kimono? Mine had a blue kimono, and she came with a blue silk pillow that she sat on. It was very pretty
Aw.
doll. Yeah.
It's like pink and white. It has like,
Yeah, show me. Flip it around.
well, I can't yet.
Oh, okay.
No spoilers. I'll show you later, and we'll put it up on our
Of course.
social medias later. So Akiku ended up, she loved her doll so much that she named it after herself, and she took it everywhere with her. Like,
Aw.
her big brother did a bang up job on getting his little sister a present. It was her
That's so
most,
sweet.
I know, it was her most beloved item.
Oh.
And so Akiku took her dolly everywhere and cuddled with her, and they were inseparable. Unfortunately, the next year, the now 3-year-old Akiku fell ill with a cold and ultimately passed away. So the doll was actually supposed to be buried with her, but it ended up that the doll was not interred with her. I don't know why that was necessarily, but
Well, maybe her parents wanted to keep it because it was her prized possession to remember
yeah.
her by, or.
Mm-hmm. And so it ended up that the family put the doll on their family altar to remember their lost daughter, and they would pray at this altar frequently. It was, where they would remember the people who'd
Their
gone before them.
ancestors,
Yeah. So shortly after the real Akiku passed, the family noticed something bizarre. The doll's hair had begun to grow, and it grew in kind of random lengths, like how real hair grows. Like, it wasn't like it was, shifting out from the places where it had been plugged into the porcelain. It was growing like human hair.
Okay.
So they believed that this indicated that Akiku's spirit was in the doll, which why you would then show your presence by growing hair, I don't know. But, go off, 3-year-old.
She was 3. That's,
Yeah.
Hey, it kind of reminds me of those Barbies. Do you remember the Barbies that would grow hair, that you pull the hair longer and then you cut it and stuff?
Yes.
Kind of reminds me of that.
A little, yeah. So in 1938, the family moved away from Hokkaido. They felt apprehensive about taking the doll with them because they believed that their daughter was inside it. And so they wanted to leave her in the doll on the island. And so they decided to leave it with the monks of the Menenji temple. And, it was the sacred place. They're like, well, our daughter's buried, but maybe this is her spirit, so let her live in this sacred place and be cared for by these monks.
That's sweet.
Yeah, and so Akiku has lived at the temple ever since that moment, and she's still cared for there today and is on display. And you can go and visit, but there's no photography allowed. So the doll Akiku's hair now flows down to her knees.
That's very long.
So if you remember, it started out like kind of a shorter than shoulder length bob. Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's past her knees?
And it's trimmed regularly by the monks.
Oh, okay.
This was not a one-time, oh, it's longer now.
Yeah,
It continues to grow and is annually trimmed. So
did they braid it or anything?
Nope, they just let it flow. So
Put
just
some ribbons in?
for those of us, like both of us, that are bad at math,
Okay, yeah.
it's been like 80 years, and they still have to regularly trim her hair.
That's incredible because, at first I was thinking, okay, if the doll was made and they had longer hair strands inside the doll and only some of it was showing, and then over time it was starting to come out a little bit, that could look, ideally, like the hair was growing.
But it's been 80 years. This is since 1938.
Not that much hair could be inside a doll.
Right.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so the monks actually started to give her haircuts after she appeared to one of them in a dream and asked him to.
I gotta say, Rue, if this story is to talk me out of buying a haunted doll, it's really not working so far. You got some work to do.
Oh my, because this 100% makes me never want to see another doll in my life.
I don't know. It kind of makes me want to buy her some hair accessories and braid her hair and stuff.
Jesus, you're a hopeless case.
Well, I haven't done it.
I'm not true.
I do think we need to give Justin a haunted item.
I 100% agree.
And find out how that goes.
Yes.
But
so supposedly, a scientist actually took a sample of the doll's hair and discovered that it really is human hair that belongs to a child. Which
they should totally DNA test that with one of her family members.
I 100% agree, and I would love to follow up on this story and see if that happens. So it sounds really crazy, but this is 100 years ago. It's unclear if, human hair was used to create these
dolls.
dolls.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oftentimes
absolutely.
it would be in different cultures. I don't know why
Right.
Japan would be any different.
Exactly. And so, I mean, it may not be weird. And like you said, I would love to see some DNA testing to see if it
That'd be
does
crazy.
line up to the Suzuki family. And yeah, that would be wild.
So Suzuki, any relation to Suzuki motorcycles?
I'm not sure, but I do believe that that's a pretty common Japanese surname.
Okay. Well, I just thought since I did the
Yeah.
Gillette thing, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That would be super wild. It's also said that if you get up really close to the doll Akiku, that you can see her mouth is over time slowly opening, and you can see teeth growing in the mouth as well. But that one seems a little more skeptical.
What's gonna happen when her mouth fully opens?
I don't know, but that is the story of Akiku, the doll who grows hair. And we'll post a picture on our social media, but that's what she looks like. And you can see her hair is like,
wow.
you can see how
Very
it's like kind of
long.
stringy and like
Yeah,
how like our
actual
hair
would
grows.
grow.
Yeah.
Also, they need to take her to a salon because I mean, let's face it, the monks. I'm sure they're trying to cut her hair evenly and all that, but they could do a
Yeah.
little bit of a better job.
Yeah.
Just
She
saying.
probably after 80 years needs like a deep conditioning keratin
Well, like
mask.
just a little touch up, you know. Take her
Yeah.
to someone who does it for a living. Get her all trimmed up.
Mhm.
This dead ends out of the way. Even up those bangs a little.
Yeah,
Maybe throw a braid in or an accessory.
we all need some post-COVID hair love.
True. I
Yeah.
feel like maybe a Kiku does too.
Yeah.
Hair
absolutely.
care for a Kiku.
Okay, so that was my first story, and just because I was a little nervous that it was kind of short, I have a second story, and this one's a little bit longer, and also comes with a lot of speculation, but it's pretty interesting to me. So this is the story of Akiku in the well.
Oh, is this the same Akiku or a different Akiku?
No relation. I looked it
Okay.
up, and it's hard to tell if Akiku was a popular name back then, but it seems like it was
Mhm.
kind of popular, at least
Okay.
in Japanese history, that there have been a couple of Akikus.
See, you've got a cool name that's pretty unique-ish. Mine is not. Everybody has my name.
Yeah, no, I get it's funny because I can tell like the generational gap because older people will say Rue McClanahan, like of the Golden Girls, and then younger people go, "Oh, from the Hunger Games."
Oh,
Like
yeah.
there's a very clear generational split.
Yeah, your name would definitely have that. Mine is just it's Jessie, so of course
Yeah.
it's short for Jessica, which I hate. I don't like that name, so I go by Jessie with an I. But everybody the year I was born has that name. It was the #1 most popular girl's name the year I was born.
Oh man.
I know,
Huh.
so original.
It's
Anyway,
all right. No one knows how to spell my name. I keep threatening that I'm going to change it to be spelled the really cool way that I get on like my Starbucks drink sometimes, which is Roux,
ooh,
which is like the
I like
French
that.
sauce of like butter
Yeah.
and flour. And
And
I wish.
also a hair care brand sold by Sally Beauty Supply.
Oh, not that we're
True story.
sponsored.
No, but like if we're talking hair care for
Yeah.
the stall, let's throw
Right.
that out there too.
Yeah. No, I wish that I was cool enough to have an X in my name. Maybe if I ever, become podcast famous, that's how I'll like sign stuff.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
I
Okay.
like it.
So, Akiku in the well. So, this is a pretty well known story in Japan. And if we have any listeners who are Japanese or are of Japanese descent, I would love to hear if you grew up with this story. That said, I am very much not of Japanese descent, and so I'm probably going to get a lot of the details wrong, and I'm definitely going to continue to butcher some of these names. So supposedly in 1655, we're taking it way back, there was a young servant girl named Akiku, and she was at the Himeji Castle in Hyogo, Japan. She served the powerful samurai Aoyama Tetsuzan, who was a regent for Lord Norimoto, who was the true ruler of the castle. So one day, Okiku overheard Aoyama discussing a plan to kill Lord Norimoto to seize the power for himself.
Intriguing.
I know. She confided what she overheard in her partner Motonobu, and Motonobu told his allies, the other people who were also servants in the castle, and they promised her that they would not let this plan be carried out. They were all very loyal to Lord Norimoto, as opposed to this samurai. So I scrolled too far. Okay, so they ended up that Motonobu and his allies warned Lord Norimoto of this plan, so he left the city entirely. He had somewhere else to go and hang out and do his lordly duties. So unfortunately, the act of him leaving the city did then have the same effect as the plot to murder him. So Lord Norimoto's absence allowed Aoyama to take control. And he knew that there was a traitor in the midst because he was close enough to Lord Norimoto to know if this guy was planning on going on vacation or, leaving for a while. There's no reason that you wouldn't tell effectively like the vice president you just up and leave in the middle of the night. It's kind of sketchy. So he takes over and things are not great. He knows that there's a traitor in his midst, and so he starts to seek out, and he figures that it's one of these servants. So fearing punishment, one of Motonobu's co-conspirators sold out Okiku to one of Aoyama's warriors, Danshiro, to lessen his own punishment. It was kind of like a plea deal. And so this Danshiro guy was kind of an asshole. He saw how beautiful Okiku was and decided to go to her directly instead of telling Aoyama what he'd found out. And so he offered that he would spare her life if she married him, which is a douche move. Like, hey, I won't kill you if you marry me.
Marry me or death.
Yeah, excuse me, no thank you.
Frickin' proposal right there.
Right. So Okiku was very much in love with Motonobu, and also, Danshiro was a total jerk. So she refused him over and over and over again as he continued to ask. So kind of the inverse of what was going on with your story. This time it was the lady saying no thank you. So Danshiro at this point is filled with a jealous rage. He knows that Okiku is in love with Motonobu and he won't have it because, he's this powerful warrior, and who is she to turn him down for this, peasant essentially. And so he's got to show off and he wants to prove a point. So he steals one of Aoyama's family heirloom plates, like these beautiful ornate, like what you'd put in a china cabinet kind of thing. So he steals one of them out of a set of 10 and framed Okiku for the theft. Why is it getting so dark?
I don't know.
What the fuck?
Nothing, literally nothing changed in the room.
Oh, I don't love that.
Literally, there's no lighting that changed or anything in the room. That's there's not any, my window's blocked by a tree, so even when the sun changes, you can't really, or a cloud passes.
What the fuck?
Might be Jim.
Hi, Jim.
But Jim, I respect your space, you respect mine, you're not allowed in my bedroom, so please go back to the basement if you're here, although we do appreciate that you said hi on the podcast if that was you. Yeah, that was really weird.
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that Zoom records in video as well. Can we take a look at this later?
Yeah, of course. I gotta tell you though, I look terrible because I am sick, but you can show that off. Yeah, I saw it happen on the screen too.
I couldn't see you.
I know nothing changed lighting wise in the room.
Okay, hold on.
I can see the room.
This isn't great for a listener oriented platform. So I'm doing my notes, and I've got kind of a split screen situation happening on my computer, and I've got my
do it. We can put a clip on our Facebook or Instagram or something.
We will. But no, so I've got these notes on my left side, and I'm kind of glancing at Jessie's face, and it's daylight there. I'm in my cave where I record, but Jessie's in 12:30 noon, sun up, good to go. And I look over, and it's blackening. It looks like she's closed her laptop almost. It gets so dark, and then it just gets light again. So I'm kind of freaking out.
Yeah, and nothing lighting in the room changed. Okay, so I have 0 lights on in this room. It's just the natural light that comes in through the window, but I very much have a tree blocking my window. And even when clouds pass, oh my god!
Doing it again!
It did it again!
Oh my god! What
and once again,
it's doing
nothing
again.
changing lighting-wise in my room right now. It looks all the same.
Okay, is your webcam not great?
No, it's been fine. This is the first time it's done this.
What the fuck? What the
Jim.
fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god! What the
happening? My room looks exactly the same as it did 2 seconds ago.
I can still see your headset lights up, and I can still see.
Jim, go to the basement, please. I think Jim's just showing off. Seriously, nothing's different in my room. Should I turn a light on or something?
Can you see?
I can see fine around my room. I can see on the screen how I'm black. There's nothing. You can just see the lights in my headphone.
Oh my god.
Oh, Jim, please. I respect your space, you respect mine. I don't know, someone's showing off or something's happening. I'm gonna turn some lights on.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So my story feels really boring now that we have an actual like encounter.
Something happening there. I don't know what that was
It's
about.
so dark. It literally, now that you have your lamp on, is as dark for you as it is for me, and it's almost 9 o'clock, and now it's getting brighter again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So that clip will be on our social media, and it's way better than any of the stories we're ever going to tell. Really glad that your ghosts decided to show up in a visual way instead of like saying, yo, what's up?
I don't know what that was. We might have to go back and listen to the audio and see if there's an EVP or something. Because honestly,
Yeah.
I'm looking around my room. Nothing in my room lighting-wise changed. It looked exactly the same. So it's not like, oh, a cloud passed in front of the sun and the natural light dimmed or something.
Bro, that's
I didn't see
so
the
scary.
darkness. I can only see the darkness on the screen.
Bro, I don't fucking love that.
It didn't feel weird, if that makes you feel any better.
Sure. Okay.
Like, it just felt like it always does here.
Great.
I'm on a lot of cold medicine, so.
Okay, but
if Jim was around, there's a good chance that I'm not feeling him right now.
That's not you being high. I for sure saw that. Okay. So
all right.
Back to my boring story now.
Akiku in the well. So he frames her for stealing this plate.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like I have heard a version of this story before, maybe.
You probably have, and by the end it's going to sound super familiar.
Okay, I'm so ready.
So Akiku gets framed for this missing plate. And so she's now searching the rooms of the palace frantically, trying to find the missing plate, but she couldn't. So she knew that, this plate being missing is going to look really bad for the servant. Like, no one's going to believe her. There's no, oh, it wasn't me, it was Danshiro, and he's been plotting to, like, no one cares. You're the servant. Right. Theft is super common. Being framed for theft is super common. Also, the treatment of servants is not great in any culture, including ours. Just feels really, I was doing these notes and I was like, wow, this feels still relevant. So at one point, while she's frantically searching the palace, Danshiro corners Akiku, and he told her that he had stolen the plate. He totally fesses up, and he told her that if she agreed to marry him, he would return it and clear her name and be like, oh, it's just me, I was just playing, because he would never get in trouble. Like, whatever, oh, it got found, I guess it was a mistake. And so she refuses him a final time. She's like, Danshiro, you are such an asshole. You're literally about to get me killed over a plate. You threaten me. You do all this stuff. I'm not going to marry you. And so this is too far for him. He flies into a jealous rage and draws his sword with lightning speed, quicker than she can even figure out what's happening. One slash was all that was necessary. He struck her so quickly she didn't even have a chance to try and run. So unfortunately, Danshiro has now killed Akiku. And now that his blood starts to cool a little bit, he realizes that it's not great to kill a servant, because technically that's like the property of the estate. And especially
so that
because
in itself is kind of like theft.
Right, especially because she was the servant girl of Aoyama, who's this guy who's overthrown Lord Norimoto. So he's already not a great guy. So you can imagine that, like, he's not going to be
piss him off.
Super happy with you. So Danshiro knows that now he needs to stash Okiku's body somewhere. So he decided that the safest place would be to just throw her into the well. And so that's what he does. No one thinks to look for her, because the story that was told by Danshiro to Aoyama and then spread out to the rest of the warriors was, oh, Okiku must have stolen this plate and ran away with it to try and start a new life. She would have pawned it somewhere and gotten a little bit of money to be able to then hopefully have this new life. Motonobu knew right away that this story was bunk. And so he and his accomplices continued to rise against Aoyama. They're like, you're not even the rightful leader. This is still Lord Norimoto's estate. And eventually they actually were successful in overthrowing Aoyama, and Lord Norimoto returned, and Danshiro's murder of Okiku was eventually discovered.
Do you know how it was discovered?
I don't know necessarily how it was discovered, but I think it was more so that just like once Lord Norimoto showed back up, that Motonobu and his accomplices were like, hey, so while you were out, some crazy shit happened, and this is what it was. And I guess they believed him, or I don't know, maybe they tortured it out. I don't know how it got found out, but it it was made right. And Okiku was honored by being enshrined nearby as a testament to her love and bravery. I think part of probably why it was believed is because Lord Norimoto had reason to be suspicious of Aoyama, and since Okiku was directly a servant of Aoyama, that it was like, hey, to quote Mulan, a life for a life, my debt is repaid. Like, Okiku saved Lord Norimoto by tipping him off that there was this assassination plot.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, oh, hey, the person who said you were going to be assassinated is dead now? Wow, wonder how that happened. And so I think, like, he got home and was like, oh, shit, like, this girl who protected me has been murdered. So, 1 + 1 = death. So she's been enshrined in this nearby tomb on the outskirts of the city, and it's a really beautiful kind of garden.
That's nice that it's a nice place.
It is, but unfortunately it sounds like not all of her is there. So at dusk, it's said that near the well you can hear whimpering or whispers from within it. Almost immediately after her death, Okiku's ghost would come shrieking out of the well each night and go to the pantry where she would count the plates, and when she would get to 9, she would note that the 10th one was still missing and let out a piercing shriek. So she's still in the afterlife said to be trying to find this missing plate to clear her name.
Oh.
And so you'll hear, obviously in Japanese, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then shriek. Do you know it?
Ichi ni san.
Chi, right?
We're gonna butcher this. Ichi ni
san shi go. I only know 5.
Okay. Well, we don't know how to count to 10 in Japanese.
So so she would say those 5 words and then
possibly different words.
6, 7, 8, 9 in Japanese, and then so supposedly the shrieking of Akiku's ghost drove Aoyama mad, which, like, good, you deserve it, jackass.
Yeah, from beyond the grave, do it, girl.
So it said that the hauntings ceased when somewhere else in the palace someone would yell out 10, which made Akiku believe that they had found the 10th plate.
Oh.
And that allows her to rest. Now, I'm not sure if that's like a one-time, someone yelled 10 once and now she's like Gucci, or if it's like every night that she comes up and you're like, oh, I found it. But apparently that is how you get her spirit to rest.
To rest is say 10.
So today the well is covered with a grate and surrounded by steel bars. But it's said that if you go to the palace at night, you will still hear her shrieking and maybe even see her rising up from the well.
Ooh.
So there's other
We both kind of, I know you give me a lot of crap about doing aquatic things, but we both kind of hit some aquaticness today.
We did. People got thrown off boats, thrown into a lot of throwing into water happened.
Yeah. These poor women.
I know. Stay away from the water, ladies. Wear a life jacket. I don't know. Just be careful. We love you. So there are other versions of this story. It seems like maybe it's generational or by district, that it kind of changes a little bit. Some people think that it was actually Aoyama's wife who broke the plate and they framed Akiku. There's a lot of different stories, but it seems like this one that I told is like the most fleshed out version.
Oh.
So this story...
I feel bad for Akiku.
I do too.
All over a plate.
Right. Yeah. Well,
and also, what kind of castle only has 10 plates?
I think it was just because it was like an heirloom set.
Ornate.
Yeah, it was like the special set. So this story was turned into a kabuki performance called Banshu Sarayashiki.
Ooh, good job with that.
Maybe. I don't know. It has also been made into many novels. There are a lot of paintings and depictions of Okiku, which we'll post some of those probably too. So in these paintings, Okiku is almost always depicted with a face twisted in distress, long black disheveled hair, and wearing a white gown.
That kind of sounds familiar with The Ring.
So this probably sounds familiar to us Westerners because it was an inspiration for the Japanese horror film Ringu, which was later adapted as the American horror film The Ring, with Sadako in the Japanese version as the antagonist of the film, representing Okiku as she rises from the well with her long black hair over her face.
Oh, spooky.
Yeah, so it's basically like taking your childhood boogeyman story and then adapting it, which I think is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Because the story is like 400 years old and they're finding new ways to keep it modern.
Yeah. Rocket says hi, by the way. He's
hi, Rocket.
Gonna climb up over this pillow, I think.
So that is the story of Okiku in the well.
I feel so bad for Akiku.
I do too.
I feel bad for both Akiku and Grace.
Yeah, yep. And poor little Kiku, who's maybe trapped in a dolly.
Yeah. She's trapped in a doll. We got a Nakiku in the well. Grace
Wow.
is trapped in the lake.
It's just bad stuff. I do want to mention really quickly that I used paranormalguide.com, odditycentral.com, pinktentacle.com, and thewillowweb.com.
Okay, I hate when you do that because you make me forced to say all my stuff.
You're all good. I just don't
The
remember
cat
to
is
post it.
all over. Well, I haven't posted anything yet. I'm trying, but I'm failing miserably. So I'll post my sources because I can't find them real quick. But I did use unsolvedmysteries.com and a couple other sources.
Awesome.
The Los Angeles Herald being one, and then some others I'll post because I'm not going to go back and dig through it right now.
I don't blame you. Well,
I'll turn my light off and we'll see where we're at here. Just to see. It's an experiment.
Is it light
it's
outside?
Still kind of dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That's so freaking weird.
What? What are you meowing about?
All right. Well, you have to keep us all updated on if you keep getting weird blackouts.
Yeah. No, I don't know what that was. Honestly, it could be anything. But what's weird about that is the light in the room as I'm looking at the room didn't change at all. So, if it was something with a window.
Yeah.
Look at what this cat is doing. He's got my mic cord. Can you see him? And he's pulling on it with his face. Stop that.
What a jerk.
I'm doing a podcast, Rocket. Stop it.
Well, and the weirdest thing, and I feel bad because this is an audio platform, but we will post the video because it was so bonkers.
Yeah, with me with no makeup on and my hair not done, sick as can be.
But
in my jammies.
You're all blacked out, so the point is that we can't see you.
But looking at my closet and looking at the room, you know how if something had passed in front of the window or anything like that, since I am using natural light, and a lamp right now, I would have seen the lighting in the room change, and there was no lighting in the room changing.
Well, and I asked if maybe it was something wrong with your webcam, but the thing is, on each ear of Jesse's headset, it's lit up bright blue, like an LED light. And
yeah, I have LED lights in my headset,
and I could still see that clear as day, illuminating around it. So I know that it wasn't the webcam blacking out. Burn some sage, mama.
Yeah, I got some over here. I'll burn it. I'll go talk to Jim. I think since the kittens have taken over the basement, he's trying to find a new spot. I feel like he's been in the garage a lot lately. Yeah. Oh my god, it's really black in your... What's happening with you? Do you see it?
Mm-mm. I don't want to look. Anyways,
it just got really dark in yours.
Great. Love it.
I'm gonna record. Oh, I can't, because you're the Zoom person.
Yep. I'll look at it later and shit my pants. Is it
Jim, did you get to Germany?
Is it just because I got farther? Because now it's... No, look, see, I'm close, and then I back up.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. So I'm really feeling... I had an espresso martini, and now I have, really nervous, kind of drunk, giggly anxiety.
All right, well, you have a good night's sleep.
Cool.
I'm just starting my day. I've got an infomercial to finish up.
Oh, yikes. Good luck with that.
It's a bottle opener.
Ooh. All
yeah,
right.
and I still don't feel good. And then I got work tonight. Yeah, it's really dark over there. Okay, Jim, if that's you, point made. Come on home.
Him over
hang out
there
in the garage.
Or over here. So thank you so much.
He's not bad, though.
Yeah.
No, he's super handy.
Right, and that was
It'll
Jim.
Be fine.
We're going to go with that was Jim.
Yeah, he doesn't normally come in my room, so that would be
right.
Weird for
that's
him to
why
be
I'm
in my room.
Sure.
But we've got a deal. So I'm gonna do a little smudging.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go have a talk with Jim in the basement and let him know garage is where you're at now. Though maybe he just knew we were podcasting and wanted to. We did talk about him a lot last week.
We did. We've always talked. He's kind of our mascot.
Yeah, and I never record anywhere else in the house. It's always my bedroom. So maybe he thought that was an invitation to come say hi and show something.
Maybe. Okay. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at supposedlypod, and our email is supposedlypod@gmail.com. We would love it. Yeah, we would love it if you talk to us, send us any stories you think we should cover, or any stories you would like us to tell of yours, and just say hi. It also helps us so much. I know every single podcast says this. If you can rate and subscribe and share with a friend if you're listening.
We just want to thank you for tuning in regardless. And thank you this time for joining us on
Supposedly. All right. Bro, what the fuck?